Okay, Dilbert, cartoonist Scott Adams, on his channel, episode 1182, said 3 times, if Trump had only done this, he would have won the election. 3 times. Now, what was it he said would have won Trump the election? Well, it was lifting the Nazi smear off his back. Now, Trump had been smeared as a Nazi, and all of his supporters were now smeared as Nazis too, which let the Dems shoot the guy in Portland because he was a Trumper. And they all said, no one mourns a dead Nazi. That's what the mama heard on the news that night after her son had been killed. No one mourns a dead Nazi. So you have this vicious smear that cost Trump the election. And Scott Adams said he could have dispelled it and gotten rid of the smear if he'd only done one thing. Now, sadly, Scott thought of it on November the 9th, 5 days after the election, what Trump could have done to get rid of the Nazi smear, the phony Nazi smear. Now, I thought of it 3 weeks before the election, and I did a video, and it said, lift the Charlottesville Nazi label Target off Trumpers' backs. Now, why did it cost them the election? Well, you remember the Time magazine article about the anti-Trump cabal and how they said they'd bought themselves an army of poll workers. Now, I'd heard about the unions, the lefties, getting their members to become poll workers. Now, you got to wonder, why? What's an army of poll workers going to do? Well, we're not allowed to say the election was stolen. Zuckerberg and Dorsey at Twitter, they're going to ban you, tear down your video if you say the election was stolen. Even though the anti-Trumpers had an army of anti-Trump poll workers working. Now, I wonder what they were doing. Now, at the same time, you had a whole bunch of posties, a bunch of lefty posties who had every opportunity to make ballots disappear if they knew it was coming from Republicans. So we can't say they did, but what an incentive to cheat Trump they all had. And it could have been dispelled by doing one thing. Scott Adams said, too late. And I'd said 3 weeks earlier, in my lift the Charlottesville Nazi Target off Trumpers' backs. Now, I found out that YouTube took down my video. Didn't issue a community guidelines strike like they have against my COVID videos where I give the statistical truth, and they don't like that, but they took down my video surreptitiously. So, my video saying lift the Nazi Target off Trumpers' backs was so important that YouTube took it down quietly. Now, I found out just recently, and so I went and put it up at Rumble. And you'll be able to find below the link to Rumble, where you can go look for yourself at my short 15-minute video where I explained what Trump had to do to dispel the Nazi Target off the Trumpers' backs before the election, and then he would have won. Now, go see the video, decide for yourself if lift the Nazi Target off Trumpers' backs would have won him the election unless YouTube hadn't taken it down. If they hadn't taken it down. So I'm saying YouTube's taking down my video took down how Trump could have won the election. And if he'd seen lift the Charlottesville Nazi Target off Trumpers' backs before the election, he could have done it and used it and won the election. So go check out for yourself at the link at Rumble for lift the Nazi Target off Trumpers' backs and decide for yourself. Now, I have a website where all of my videos are linked. If you can't find it at Rumble because a search won't find it there either, then you go to my smartestman.ca/KOTP, King of the Paupers, the poor people, not the druggies. So, if you go check the videos at King of the Paupers and you look for last year, October 13th, 3 weeks before the election, you will find my video on how Trump could have won the election if he'd seen my video. And that's the reason YouTube took it down. Go see if you agree.